Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rajiv S. Khanna from immigration.com, the law offices of Rajiv S. Khanna, PC. Today is December 15th. This is our bi-weekly community conference call where we try to answer generally all questions posted by the community on immigration. I am also monitoring my Twitter feed. I did post this morning that we won't have time for new questions because we have a lot of posted questions. So no new questions today, sorry. The process, as you probably know from the past calls, I'll answer first the questions that have been posted, which I have marked as frequently asked questions. And you're welcome to ask me follow-up questions. The way you ask follow-up questions is by pressing *5 on your telephone. I will invite questions as and when the time comes. Okay, let's get started. I also want to remind you, please follow me on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and all of these links are on our homepage, immigration.com, on the top panel. So just please follow. That way we can stay in touch with you immediately on all the latest developments. Let's begin with the questions. The first question to be taken today was from Jen US 99. I am on H1B and 5 years, 3 months are completed. H1B extension has been filed, which will take 7 to 8 months. My I-140 is approved in 2013. Priority date is also 2013. If my project finishes and I have to go to India, then what will happen to my H1B extension? Well, there are too many variables there for me to comment meaningfully. You should talk with your H1B lawyers. As a general matter, just because you are outside USA during an extension, H1 extension, or even a transfer, does not affect either the extension or the transfer, or even the amendment. It's only when you've asked for a change of status, for example, F1 to H1, when things can get a little tricky. But during a H1 extension, transfer, or amendment, your continued presence in the USA is unnecessary. But in your specific case, Mr. Jain, you need to talk with your lawyers because USCIS considers it to be a violation of the law, in fact almost fraud, if your company files an H1 without there being a specific project available for you. Second question, if I will be in India for more than 1 year and change my company, my present company will revoke my green card and my H1B. And if my new company will try to send me to USA, then they'll use my old H1B as per the new I-140 rule. Can I extension my old H1B or my new employer need to file new H1B? Okay, the question is a little unclear, but let me try to parse it. First of all, I want you to remember, I have made I think, a very nice graphic summary of the I-140 rule. If you go to immigration.com, it's actually on our front slider. That summary, that graphic that you see. Also, if you go to my blogs, and it's on the right-hand side on immigration.com, and you click on that, and you see that graphic, it contains the entire law summarized point by point by point. So you can basically look at that. But let me try to parse your question. I am on H1, I leave USA, my I-140 is approved. If my company lets me go and I want to come back to USA with another company, how does that work out? What happens to my I-140? What happens to my H1? So let's start with the H1 first. Under the law, if you have had an H1 approval within the last 6 years, you are not subject to the quota if you were working in US, say, got a change of status, or you got a visa stamp. So obviously, you should be okay as far as the quota is concerned. That's one part settled. Now comes January 17th, when the new regulations come in. Under the new regulations, Mr. Jain, even if the old company revokes the I-140, as long as the I-140 stayed approved for 180 days, you will carry your priority date as well as your right to extend H1 on a 3-yearly basis through any employer. Okay. So those are the factors in play here. Quota, you are protected because you were approved and working within the last 3 years. Last 6 years. Priority date, you'll be protected if your I-140 was approved 180 days after January 17th, new regulations come in. H1 extensions, you'll be protected because your I-140, if it stayed approved for 180 days, you are good to go. Okay. So that generically is the law. One thing, as I'm talking, I forgot to check on the regulations. Does the 180-day period begin to run after January 17th? I don't think so, but I'll double check that. And if I find that it's different, I will either put it on I'll put it on Twitter, on our Facebook page, Google Plus, as well as LinkedIn. Okay. We are pretty active in the social media, so we'll have all of that in there. I'll double check that for you over the weekend and let you know. I didn't think that was a problem, but just as I'm talking about it, I want to confirm it anyway. These are serious issues. We don't want to make guesses about them. Okay, so then let's see. How new I-140 rule will work in my present condition? My project is ending in March 2017. They are trying for a new project. Okay, I already covered that. My friends told me that the best option is to file extension in premium. H1 extension should only be filed if you have a project in hand. And your last point was, I tried to read I-140 so many times, but I'm not able to understand it properly. You should, Mr. Jain, like I said, go to my blog and see the graphic that contains the entire law about how this all works. And I think it should be pretty clear. I made this graphic myself, so I took the time to make it as succinct, as clear as possible. Okay, actually I kind of forgot what I was doing. I should have done the frequently asked questions first. I'll do them next. But right now, does anybody have any follow-up questions on what I just discussed? Nothing new. Today I won't have time for new questions. *5 if you have a follow-up question. Press *5 on your phone. One person has a follow-up question. Pennsylvania, go ahead please. Pennsylvania.
Hi Rajiv, I have one question regarding the 140, new 140.
Yes, sir.
For example, currently my 140 is approved and it's more than 180 days.
Right.
And I know that January 17th is the new rules is going to come.
Right.
So what happens in case if today my job is lost, what will be my status?
See, the thing is, loss of job is completely irrelevant. You don't have to worry about that. What you have to worry about is the I-140 getting revoked before January 17th? If your job is lost and your employer sends in a request for I-140 revocation before January 17th, then you'll be covered by the old laws. You see my point? So if you lose your job today, but they send a request for revocation on January 18th, you are covered by the new rules. Loss of job or continuity of the job is not a requirement under the old regulations or the new regulations. It's the revocation that's the key event.
Okay, if my employer is not sending any revocation, then I'm good. But before that, will I be like an out of status?
Well, that is a
my
different.
H1B?
That is a different question. You asked me about the I-140. That is covered by the new rules, and as well as the old rules. Under the new rules, you will have up to 60 days grace period for each H1 validity. If you get laid off unexpectedly, it's not automatic, but government will consider you or your situation sympathetically for up to 60 days. If you get laid off unexpectedly and you get a new job, they might forgive your status. After January 17th, not before.
Okay, alright. So in case if that happens before, then I will be in trouble.
Well, not necessarily. Call me or email me. We'll send you a link to applying for a tourist visa or one of those things. You should be okay ultimately. I think so.
Alright, thanks Rajiv.
Anytime. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, what I was supposed to do was do the frequently asked questions first. Let's go to the frequently asked question. And I just discussed this actually. Frequently asked question again, Jane US 99. Guys, try to keep your questions down to 1 or 2 if possible, because we then have to knock off other people because we don't have enough time to answer all the questions. I'm going to in the future restrict the questions to 18 and then take new questions. This time they went all the way up to 31, and that's too many questions. Luckily, these questions are relatively short, so I can deal with them. Okay, so my I-140 is approved in 2013. H-1B 5 years, 3 months are completed. If I lose my job, my employer revokes my H-1B and I-140. Will I get some time to find a new job? And I just said that government will sympathetically consider unexpectedly layoffs and should give you consideration for up to 60 days each H1 period. So one 60-day period, you have, let's say you've taken, then you change employers, you have another 60-day period. Kind of like that. There's a little bit more to it, but each time there's a new validity of H1, you will be able to get 60 more days. Okay, 60. Does anybody have a follow-up question on this? Star 5, please. Okay, let's go on to the next frequently asked question. Now here's an interesting question. If I am on H1 and I convert to H4, does that kill my priority date or affect my priority date? The answer is no. If you were on H1 and you had filed a green card, you got a priority date, your I-140 was approved, now you change to H4, that does not kill your priority date. That's not a problem. And the second part of the question was, can I take maternity leave on H1? Yes, absolutely. How much you can take, that depends upon the state law. So federal law and state law combined, that's the best way to decide. People who are just logging in, I want to tell you guys, we have a lot of questions today, so we won't have time for new questions. So if you were hoping for new questions, I can't take them today, but we'll do it next time after the holidays. Okay, so maternity leave is definitely allowed, and sometimes if in addition to maternity leave you have some, for instance, medical necessity and you need to take more time off, you should be able to do that as well, and you would be considered to be on H1. And you don't need to convert to H4 for maternity leave reasons, but you can do that also, and you can convert back to H1 later on. Any follow-up questions on this, either the priority date being affected by H4 change of status or the maternity leave questions? Press star 5 if you have follow-up questions. Nothing new. Please ask any follow-up questions you have on these two issues. I think I have one more frequently asked question. I thought I did. Maybe not. Oh yeah, there is. This is a very important one. I get this a lot. So my green card is expiring. I want to apply for naturalization. Should I renew my green card? And the answer is, this is what the government said the last time I heard from them. They said, if you're applying for naturalization and your green card is expiring before 6 months are up, So in other words, you are applying for naturalization within 6 months before expiration of your green card, then you must renew the green card. But if you are applying, let's say your application is received 7 days before 6 months or even 3 days before 6 months of green card validity is left, you don't need to renew. You can just file naturalization. Okay. So 6-month rule, if you are applying for naturalization and you have more than 6 months left on your green card, you don't need to renew. If you have less than 6 months left on your green card, you need to renew. Okay. *5 if you have a follow-up question on this. No new questions. Guys, I see a bunch of people logging in. I won't have time to answer new questions today. Sorry about that. Any follow-up question, press *5 on the naturalization issue. Okay, let's then get started on the next question in the regular queue. Ravik for you says, I am on 5th year of H1B. I-140 was approved in March of this year. If I change my job after 17 Jan, after the new EAD rule is out, can my employer revoke approved I-140? Look, under the new regulations, employer is not stopped from revoking your I-140. What is happening is that you are being protected by the fallout. Okay. And I remind again people who are just logging in, go to my blog on immigration.com and you'll see this graphic that I think I took a lot of pain in preparing. This summarizes the entire law. This graphic is also on our LinkedIn page, also on our Facebook page. And I think I put it on our Twitter account also. So do take a look at this graphic. It summarizes the entire law. You are being protected not from revocation itself taking place, but negative effects of the regulation. Negative effects of the regulation. Okay. Of the revocation. So after January 17th, if the I-140 was pending 180 days after approval, I'm gobbling this. Let me try again. Start again. If your I-140 is approved and stays approved for 180 days, your priority date is yours and your right to extend H1 on 3-yearly basis through any employer is yours. If your I-140 is revoked before 180 days, but if it has been approved, you will keep your priority date, but you won't have the right to keep extending H1. If it stays approved for 180 days, you will also have the right to extend H1 through any employer. And there's a third element in this, and I have put this in the graphic. If you go to this graphic, I think it's under AC21 green card portability. And look at this regulation, what it says. In cases where I-485 was pending 180 days, but I-140 is not yet approved. So you filed I-140, 485 together, and everything has been pending 180 days, but I-140 is not yet approved. AC21 portability is possible if the I-140 was approvable. This is the only typo I found in this whole graphic. It should be I-140 was approvable when filed. Approvable when filed. So that's the typo there. But the idea is, if your I-140 and 485 were filed together, but I-140 is not approved. I-140 is not approved. It would still be approved, even though you left that employer, if your case was approvable when filed. So the government will put its mind back to the time when the I-140 was filed and see, was it approvable when filed? Subsequently, whether it is approved or not, or whether you've left that employer, should not be relevant. Okay? And I have written this in the graphic that I told you in my blog. It tells you exactly how it works. And of course, you have to inform the USCIS of the port. Okay, so because this is kind of complicated, I will sum it up again. Under the new rules, let's see. There are the following situations. Your I-140 is approved. No, let's take it one step back. Your I-140 is pending but not approved. Pending but not approved. If the employer revokes it, or the I-140, or you leave the employer and it turns out that government wants to revoke the I-140, it can go away without any benefit to you. But if the I-140, 45 are filed together, after 180 days of their pendency, government will look at was the I-140 approvable when filed and can still approve it even though you left. Third situation, where I-140 is approved but you left, but the employer asked for revocation before 180 days, you will keep your priority date, but you won't have the right to extend H1 based upon that I-140. But if the I-140 is approved and stays approved for 180 days, and after that employer revokes it, not only do you keep your priority date, you also keep your right to extend your H1 through any employer on 3-yearly basis. Folks, I see some people logging in. We won't have time for new questions today. We have a lot of questions to answer. Okay, any follow-up questions on this, press *5. No new questions. Any follow-up questions on this, press *5, please. Okay. Next question. This is from Praveen. I am a green card holder, completed 4 years and 3 months in USA. I need to go out of USA for 6 months. Can I apply for naturalization immediately after coming back? No, or maybe no. I'll tell you why. You meet certain requirements. There are 2 elements I'm looking at here. Praveen, I hope you are here because then you can ask me follow-up questions. First element is you've completed your at least 2.5 years of physical presence. So you can, and you've had a green card for let's say 5 years, you can apply for your naturalization. 2.5 years of physical presence, green card approved 5 years ago, you can get your naturalization filed. But there are a couple of other things. If you are gone for over 6 months, you must have a good explanation why you are gone that long. That's a part of naturalization application. So if you're gone for more than 6 months, government can ask you for the reasons. The next item you have to remember, you also need to be domiciled in the state through which you are filing for 90 days. And this is where it gets tricky. The sub-offices of USCIS are inconsistent. They are inconsistent about that requirement. Some USCIS sub-offices may allow you to accumulate that 90 days of domicile while the naturalization application is pending. So I returned from Indonesia, I filed my application for naturalization after I have relocated to Maryland. My 90 days of domicile in Maryland was not up when I filed for my naturalization. But some sub-offices will say, okay, while the naturalization application was pending, you are staying in Maryland, so you've got 90 days of domicile. But this is not uniform. Many sub-offices don't allow it, and they'll return your application. You'll have to refile it. You'll lose your fees. You lose all the time. You'll have to refile it after 90 days of domicile. You can confirm what the local office thinks by contacting your local congressman and having them confirm it, whether the sub-office will allow you the 90-day period while the application is pending. Any follow-up questions on this? *5, please. No new questions. *5 for follow-up questions. Okay. Next question is from Ram Ramya 1989, working for employer A on H1B with valid EAD and pending I-485 for more than 180 days. Changed my job to employer B with H1B transfer along with AC-21 filing after 2 years. Employer B has applied for H1B extension, got an RFE saying that employer A revoked my I-140, asking for I-140 approval. My employer already sent approved I-140 document along with extension documents. Do I have a chance of 45 denial? Do I have a chance of 45 denial? Well, you see, you have, because it's before January 17th, Ram, you've got a different set of issues. If it was after January 17th, things would be fine. But here, because I-140 was revoked, you don't have the right to extend an H1 based upon the revoked I-140. But because you left the employer, or because your 485, I-140 was approved and 485 was pending more than 180 days, you do have the right to carry your green card to the new employer. So your green card is protected, but your H1 is not. Your green card is protected, but your H1 is not. So I think your H1 can be denied, but not your I-485. And I don't know how you can get an H1B extension in these circumstances, unless you started a new green card through the new employer. I think I have covered your questions, Ram. If anybody has a follow-up question, press *5. So once again, your green card should be safe. Your H1 probably cannot be extended unless you file another green card through this employer. Follow-up questions, *5. Okay. So we have a situation where sister lives in Bangalore, 2 minor children, abusive husband. She's moved out of the house. I want to bring her and the kids on a tourist visa. See, the problem is, unless there is a court order that gives her sole custody, or you get the required no objection waivers from the father, you will not be able to bring the kids because the children are under joint custody. So folks who are just joining in, I remind you, we won't have time for new questions. So unfortunately, Lalita ji, you won't have any way of bringing the children here, either without a court order giving your sister custody or without the proper waivers or no objections from the husband. *5 if you have a follow-up question. Okay. Advice please. I'm on H1B with approved I-140, approved over 5 years ago. Been with the same employer. H1B has expired recently. Extension was filed before expiration. I'm still waiting approval. Normal processing. Now, it doesn't look like I'll be able to continue with employer A. Now, I have an offer from employer B. I know that the safest way is to get extension approved, then move. So the question is, can I bridge? The answer is yes. The way the bridging works, as far as I remember, is if you have H1, current H1 good till June, next June, okay? And let's say your employer has applied for an extension in January. You get a job offer from another employer. If they file for your H1 before June, because your initial period is still valid, you have no problem. But what if they apply for you after June, where your H1 application for extension is pending through employer A, but employer B has filed a transfer? The way it works is, and I think it's going to be the same under the new regulations, on the date your second case is decided, unless the first case of extension is already approved, government will give you the H1, but they'll make you go outside for visa stamping. So bridging works like that the cases must be approved before the second case can be, or the third case or the fourth case can be approved. That's the way it works. Okay. Okay. I'm coming to your question number 2A, because the rest of the process I have actually covered in my discussion. 2A says, if transfer to employer B is approved and I start working, later on extension with employer A is denied or revoked, would I be out of status? No, that's not how it works. If your employer B application is approved, the fact that an earlier pending application was denied, which actually shouldn't happen at all because they shouldn't approve the second application until the first one is approved. But in any case, let's assume that you went and got your visa stamping. You came in with employer B's visa and you started working for employer B. Then they denied the employer A's application. that should have no bearing on employer B's approval unless it is based upon some kind of a fraud in your documentation. For example, you gave fake degrees. Yeah, then you have a problem. But otherwise, employer A's denial should not have any effect on employer B's approval of H1. I have already discussed the I-140 porting in detail in the earlier discussions today. As long as the I-140 was approved and stayed approved for 180 days, even if it is revoked after 180 days under the new regulations from January 17th, you still carry the right to extend your H1 through any employer. So if your I-140 is approved and stays approved after January 17th, if that stays approved for 180 days, you preserve your right to priority date as well as your right to extend your H1 through any employer. If it is less than 180 days and it got revoked, then you just have the right to keep your priority date. Once the I-140 is approved, priority date is yours. Once the I-140 is pending 180 days, approved, not pending, approved 180 days, and then revoked later on, you carry the right to both your priority date as well as to extend your H1 on a 3-yearly basis through any employer. It should have no impact on your green card or future green card. You should apply for a green card as quickly as possible anyway, because you are going to need that. You haven't done green card portability. So *5 if you have any follow-up questions. No new questions, please. Today we won't have time for any new questions. *5 for follow-up questions. There's one hand I have. Okay. Let's get to that. Illinois, go ahead, please. Illinois.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Rajiv. Thanks for answering the questions. I just want to make sure I understood correctly about the bridging.
Sure.
So bridging always works wherein I have to step out of the country, get a visa stamp for the new employer.
No, that's not. Let me take a quick look at the regulations. Let me see if they have changed anything on that. Let me go to my blog real quickly. General EAD rule, driver's license issues, H1B licensing requirement, minor changes, AC-21 H1B job portability, no change. Let's see. May file bridge petitions. And I haven't noted anything down here. If I remember correctly, the old regulations and the new regulations have the same rule. Let me explain to you the rule, and I did explain it earlier. You will be able to get your H1 within USA if your earlier pending H1 is approved on the date your second H1 is decided. Did you follow that? So
that's if I get it before expiration of the first one, right?
No. Then there is no bridging, because then it's just simple transfer. But let's say, taking the same example I gave, that your H1 with employer A is expiring in June 2017. In January, employer A filed your H1 extension. Clear so far?
Mm-hmm.
Now, on June, or let's say on July 1st, another employer applied for H1 transfer, employer B. So now you've got earlier extension pending. Your period of stay till June has expired. You are in a 240-day grace period to continue working with employer A, but you don't have status if that case is denied. Okay. You filed a transfer petition after June. Let's say you filed it premium processing. If on the date your second petition is decided, adjudicated, second petition, that is a transfer petition, your old petition is still pending or it is denied, they won't give you H1 within USA. You'll have to go outside. But if they have approved the earlier case on the date your second case is decided, you will get H1 within USA. Change of status or the I-94 within years. That's what I remember. I will of course double check this also, and if I find something different, I will tweet it for you, or I'll tweet, or you can go to Twitter, my Facebook account, LinkedIn account, or Google Plus. I'll put it everywhere. I have two things to check. One would be this. I would check it for you. Let me just make a note of this. 1 second.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But considering the scenario, if I go with premium processing for the second application, that should turn around the results faster, and I should be in a better position than normal processing.
Yeah, of course. The thing is, the way I look at it, what is the worst case scenario in bridging? Only that you have to go outside for visa stamping. If your case is otherwise straightforward, that's not a problem. Okay?
Okay. And I have one more follow-up with regards to quoting my I-140, because like I explained, there's some situation with the employer. By any way, in the future, will there be any impact on H-1B or quoting I-140 from the previous employer if the previous employer's situation turns out to be bad?
Not
really quite the reason.
if they try to revoke it after January 17th and your I-140 has been approved for 180 days. There is nothing that affects you.
Not in a normal revocation, but what if it's because of misrepresentation?
Oh, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Misrepresentation creates so many issues, I would need a couple of hours to go over all of them. But if a case is revoked by USCIS for misrepresentation, you get nothing.
Not the particular case, but the employer themselves, nothing to do with my case.
That's the same problem. It's the same
company.
problem. Because I-140 is the employer's petition. If they have lied about something, or they have other cases where they've lied, you could end up losing everything.
So in that scenario with the new employer, do you suggest I start fresh?
That's exactly.
I-140 would like be in a better position?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Start a green card anyway. It's just money. Why not? Do it.
And also time, right? I would lose whatever priority date and all that.
We don't know that yet.
To them.
We don't know that yet. Okay, so we are kind of assuming we're jumping way ahead. In any case, this makes the most sense anyway. So start a new green card.
So I could use the priority date and start the green card with the new employer, and that should be okay.
Look, if the revocation is for misrepresentation, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Rajiv.
Call me
I appreciate it.
Rajiv, please. Good luck. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Kumar says, I filed my I-485 EB2 ROW application. What does ROW mean? ROW? I-485 EB2 ROW? I don't know what that means. I'm assuming you're just talking about an adjustment of status and it's gone under extended review. And then you said that if any idea if USCIS will let me know why it has been selected for extended review? No. Very doubtful, but no harm in asking your congressman to investigate. They might be able to give you some better answers. So can I also apply through green card lottery? Yes, you can. You can have multiple green card applications going. Can you or should you file another I-485? I would. Just make sure that it carries the same A number as the old case, and you can even put it on the cover letter that you have another 485 pending. It causes confusion, but it protects your rights. Now, if the review is because of something wrong with your background, you're going to have the same problem with the new case. But if the review is because of something that the employer did, incorrectly, then it should not be a problem for your DV case. Okay. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question. Star 5. Okay. And Kumar also has another question. I'm on L1B. 485 is filed with NSC, which is under extended review. I used my advanced parole documents to return. Can I file 485? That's a very tricky question. If you enter on advanced parole, can you file 485? I have talked with USCIS. They have said they'll allow it. But when I look at their policy and regulation statement, it's not that clear. Again, an issue that you should take to your congressman's office, get a definitive answer from USCIS, preferably in writing. Okay. I personally think it's definitely questionable whether a person on advanced parole can file another 485. But I looked at this issue. I couldn't find any definitive answer. I think it's a gray area. If you find something different, please let me know. But I'm not at all sure that's possible. Have it followed through your congressman's office. Okay. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question on this, guys. Okay. Raj says, my previous employer's I-140 was revoked after I moved to new employer. I stayed with my previous employer more than a year. With my current employer, I-140 was ended up in denial after RFE and NOID because you have that MCA BSc problem. Well, first of all, we've dealt with this issue before and we've been able to deal with it successfully. I think there may be other issues also in the labor certification. I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I can't really comment about why it was denied and what is the way out of that. But let me see. I can look at your question generically. Your H-1B is going to max out in May 2017. First of all, remember, if you file an appeal against the I-140 denial, while the appeal is pending, you can keep getting H-1 extensions. And you can start a new green card in the meantime. Okay? Refile I-140 with the current PERM, you can do that also. Apply new PERM. I think you may have to kind of juggle either an appeal or a new I-140 filing as well as a green card filing. We have, by the way, we've dealt with this issue before. And part of the problem is the 3+3. And part of the problem is government started taking the position that there is no degree called computer application. In other words, let me rephrase that. Computer applications is not the same thing as computer science, and it's not the same thing as information systems. So we've won cases on this. Tell the government, tell your lawyers to look into it a little bit deeper. Maybe they can figure out a solution. Maybe your case can be saved through an appeal. Certainly try it. Administrative Appeals Office has said they don't consider usually computer applications to be equivalent to information systems or computer science, but it also depends upon your transcript, what kind of courses you took. Okay? So, what other options to get my 7th year extension? I told you, you could always file an appeal against the I-140. Star 5, if you have a follow-up question on this, star 5, please. Okay. Pawan says, I'm currently working in mining industry, got a degree in environmental engineering. I've got a 485 pending. We've got EAD. I'm looking for a new job in a different sector such as manufacturing. Do I have to stay in the same occupation? And this is where you go back to my blog and you look at this area where it says AC21 green card portability. I have made this graphic which tells you same or similar job necessary, but USCIS has removed exclusive dependence on technical criteria like SOC, occupational codes. Will rely upon job description, skills, experience, education, training, licenses, certifications, SOC plus other evidence. The best thing about this is you can actually file a supplement J. This is where I have talked about this. And you can look at where the three red bullet points are. Wherever I put red bullets on my graphic, once again, this graphic is in my blogs. It's in our Twitter postings. It's in our LinkedIn. It's on our Facebook. So you'll have this graphic. The 3 bullet points tell you workers can ask for USCIS ruling on supplement J before changing jobs. So you could actually get an employer, a future employer, to fill it out and see if USCIS will allow the port. You can actually get an advanced ruling, which I think is a great way to go. It might take time though. In the meantime, you could be doing any job because remember, the EAD card that you get allows you to work anywhere and do any job. But when USCIS asks for an employment letter, it must be in a same or similar occupation. So while your supplement J is pending, you could be working anywhere, including this new employer that you're going through. And if they say, well, we're going to deny the supplement J, again, this is new regulation, a lot of it remains unseen. You may want to talk with your lawyers. I don't think it's going to be a problem because they have to send you an RFE saying provide a similar job. We don't believe these are similar. But don't take my word for it. This is too new. That's an exploration. Explore this area where you get an advanced ruling from USCIS. Star 5 if you have any follow-up questions on this, please. Star 5. Okay. Next question. We are not even halfway through it right now, but I'm trying to move as quickly as possible. We had too many questions today. So my I-140 was approved. In the future, we'll close at 18. Today we have 32. We'll close at 18 questions in the future. My I-140 was approved more than 6 months back. If I move to a new employer right now and my employer does not revoke my I-140 until January 17th, will they be able to revoke? I already covered this ground. There is no prohibition against revocation. There is only a protection against the consequences of revocation. So employers can always revoke, but you should not have bad consequences from the revocation. Next question. Oh, sorry, I forgot to ask. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question. Star 5. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Krupa says, I filed my 485 concurrently with I-140 in July 2007. Green card approved September 2016. Filed I-24 for my children. Oh yeah, your case is stuck with the NVC. And you consulted with me also. What should I do to get my petition processed expeditiously? I think you should contact your congressman's office. Contact your congressman's office, sir. That would be the next step. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question, Krupa. Star 5. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. A and B. I'm on H-1B for my current employer, A. My second year in the US, I came in 2015. My petition and visa is valid till 2017. I-94 was valid till August 2017. Last year when I came back, they gave me I-94 till December 2016 because of the passport expiration. Passport was renewed. Current employer filed for a visa extension, which you mean status extension. Okay. Normal processing takes about 7-8 months. I found a new employer, but they can file it as a bridge case. I have discussed the bridge case several times today. So if you just rewind through this discussion that we had, you'll hear my discussion on bridge cases. They can certainly find it. File your H1 transfer. Worst case scenario, you have to go outside for visa stamping, not the end of the world. So they can transfer. If I leave the country, I cannot enter back till visa extension is approved. Not true. Not true. See, because you're still in the second year of H1. You have a lot of time left on your H1. So even if you applied for an H1 transfer with the employer B, C, D, and E, whichever gets approved, you could go outside and come back even though all the other cases are pending. So you go get your visa stamping and come back. You can do that. Yes, you should apply for a transfer as quickly as possible. I think that is the best option for you. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question, folks. Star 5. One question? All right, let's take this. Minnesota, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, this is A and B who has posted the question. So, in my case, my employer is processing in a normal scenario. So, in case my new employer has filed it in a premium processing, what they are saying is, since my I-94 is expired, they cannot go ahead and file my transfer. So, that is where it's getting on hold, and no employer is ready to take me because of my I-94
Your
expiration.
employers,
So like I wanted to know,
your
like,
employers simply need to hear this. You can play this for them. When somebody's I-94 is expired, but there is a timely filed extension, they are in authorized period of stay, they are not in full status, their transfer request can be filed. You can call it anything you want. Let the lawyers decide which boxes to check, but the transfer request can be filed. Worst case scenario, you have to go outside for visa stamping once the transfer is approved. No big deal.
so in that case, I can still go ahead and talk to new employers to file for the transfer, and I wouldn't be losing the job,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. You can ask them to file a transfer. And as far as I recall, you can even start working with the employer based upon the receipt.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that sounds
Good
good.
luck. Yeah, they're getting bad legal advice.
Thank
That's
you.
the way to handle it. Okay? Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one. Okay, now we are halfway through. This one is from Lakshmana Charyulu. Lakshmana Charyulu. My daughter's H-1B was approved this year. No visa stamping yet. Would you suggest her to come to India for visa stamping? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think Trump will interfere with the visa stamping. So, I can't answer that question, Lakshmanji, because there are so many things we don't know. How is this new government going to deal with employment-based visas? We don't really know the details. Would I advise people to go get their visa stamping in a hurry? I don't see any reason to do that. Remember, to make policy, to implement policy, or to change laws are all time-consuming elements. They shouldn't happen overnight. But I am just predicting based upon what I know. Is this cast in stone? The answer is no. You have another option. I don't know if you've considered that. Your daughter can go to a third country. She doesn't have to go all the way to India. Canada, Mexico, one of the other countries, and go get a visa stamping from there. Why not? Might be easier. *5 if you have a follow-up question. *5. Okay. Next one. Monica has posted this. My employer came up saying that my green card process will be done in EB3. Can I do EB2 or exceptional ability aliens? No, I have looked at your resume. I don't see anything here that suggests to me that an EB1 or even an EB2 is possible. Sorry. I have a bunch of videos on this. You can go to our frequently asked questions and review my answers. *5 if you have a follow-up question. Okay. Ram Shankar says, I'm on H-1B. Can I work from home if the employer gives me the option? We have lots of employees who do that. I don't see any problem with that. It's done all the time. *5 if you have a follow-up question. *5. Okay. We have a case here, Archis, who says, I had a retail theft issue. I pleaded not guilty. Case was withdrawn and dismissed. Arrest record was expunged based on the withdrawal of charges. You see, you have not... Oh, there is a raised hand. Let me get to... I think that must be Ram Shankar. Let's get to that first. Yeah, Minnesota, go ahead, please. Minnesota.
Yeah, so will the case be same in case of a H1 transfer if the second job is total work from home? Will that also not be a problem?
No. Actually, there are a couple of things you need to remember. Department of Labor has said when you have a work from home job, they want the posting notices, which are a part of the H1 filing, to be posted in the actual job location. So let's say you are sitting in Minnesota working for a client in Washington, D.C. They want the posting to be done in Washington, D.C., but the LCA can cover both locations, Washington, D.C. and your home location. Let your lawyers handle the details. Answer is you can do it any which way you like. You can do some work from home, some work at client site, all work from home, or have two jobs or two different projects, one of which is completely from home, one of which is at client side. So there's no limit to what you can do as long as you disclose to the government what you're planning to do. Okay? Sir?
Thank you.
All right. Good luck. Okay. Going back to the arrest issue. So, you see, you have not been convicted. You have been arrested, but you've not been convicted. So, arrest is not a conviction. Guys who are just logging in, I won't have time for new questions today. Sorry. We have a lot of questions that were posted, and we're going to barely make it in the hour 15 minutes that we've got. Okay. So, I think you're going to have some delays when you go for visa interview because they could want to look at your background. Carry a court-certified disposition, court-certified copy of whatever was done at the end of the case with you. But overall, I don't think you're going to have a denial based upon a non-conviction. And is Trump going to change any of that? How can he? If he wants to change the law, he has to go to Congress for that. Certain things he can't change by himself. Star 5, if you have a follow-up question on this. Star 5. Okay. So, Ashok Mittal says, I am 68 years. Green card has been approved under IR5 category. There's a remark on the visa. You had sent me, I think, a tweet. Yes, you had sent me a tweet, or I remember this from before. And you have an annotation, class A or B, TB required, etc., etc. What needs to be done? Okay. I don't remember. I think this remark talks about active tuberculosis. Now, at the port of entry, they should have addressed this issue. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, whether you were carrying any documentation or you were taking any medicines. I don't know exactly what's happening. What you could do is, you could go to the closest Customs and Border Protection Office, CBP, preferably at the airport or any CBP office, and show them the endorsement and say, well, nothing was done at the port of entry. What am I supposed to do? I think you're okay, because they should have addressed this issue at the port of entry otherwise. You have financial obligations. You need to travel to India frequently. How much total period in a year am I required to stay in the USA? Ashokji, in our frequently asked questions, if you go to immigration.com, let me show you. If you go to immigration.com and see on top, there is the frequently asked questions. Okay? And if you click on that, there are so many issues that we have addressed. And one of these, on the left-hand side, you will see all of these issues. Okay? On the left-hand side, you'll see all these issues. These are non-immigrant visas. Below that is green card issues. So your answer should be in here. How long can I stay? It might be under re-entry permit. Click on re-entry permit. I'm pretty sure we've got information here, how long you can stay. As a summary, there's more to it. As a summary, I can tell you this. If you stay outside USA for 1 year, you lose your green card. Less than 6 months is usually not a problem in any 12-month period. More than 6 months, less than 12 months, you can be questioned very closely. But if you leave with the intention not to come back even one day, you could get your green card taken away. So that in a nutshell are the rules. *5 if you are on the phone and you have any follow-up questions. *5. Okay. Nate 16. Current jobs H1B visa ends on June 30th, 2017. An offer of another job is possible in Jan, and new employer is ready to apply for cap exempt H1B. Start date of new H1B is August 2017. Does employee have to leave USA within 10 days grace period after June 30th and return in August after stamping? Well, there is no automatic grace period in between of a visa. Like I said, government will give you grace period of up to 60 days based upon their own discretion, but probably not under these circumstances. So you might be a good idea to leave USA, but you can have a start date that is earlier, and the rules allow you to join them within 60 days after approval if you are in USA. So you have that little leeway that you can join them 60 days later, but not for the convenience of the employer, for your convenience. If you need some extra time, the H1 is approved and you call and tell the employer, look, I'm going to join you in 45 days. That is okay. I don't know if there's going to be any change in the entry policies or stamping. I don't know the mind of Trump. I don't think Trump knows the mind of Trump. *5, anybody has a follow-up question? Okay. All right, there's one. San Diego. Let's go to California. Yes, California. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Rajiv. A follow-up question to that is, just to clarify something you said, that one can start a job 45 days after the H1B is approved,
Let me hang on.
or after the start date, take it on H1B.
The law is you can never join before the start date. So if you have mentioned July 1st and the petition got approved in January or February or March, you cannot join until July 1st anyway. The law says, and law assumes, this is one area where everything is not clear, but law assumes that you want to join as soon as the case is approved. So the law says that, give me 1 second. I just need 1 second. I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Okay, I am back. So the law says that once the H1 is approved and the employee is in the United States, they have up to 60 days to join the employer. At the convenience of the employee, not the employer. If the employer says, join me, 30 days from now, that's not good enough. If you report for duty and they ask you to come back in 3 weeks, they have to pay you for those 3 weeks. But if you ask for your convenience, I'll join you, you can take that period to up to 60 days. And that's from the date of approval. Okay?
I see. Not from the date of start of H1, which is stated on
I
iPad.
don't know. I would have to look at the exact language of the Department of Labor regulation that contains this language, because I've never really looked at the reg from that point of view, that there's going to be a difference between the joining date and the start date. Normally you join as soon as the case is approved. But if the start date is 4 months down the line, does that 60-day period vanish? I would like to guess that no, it starts from the date you start, but I don't want to commit to it because I don't know for sure. But I'm making you aware that there's a regulation out there that allows you that leeway. You can have somebody take a look at it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
thank you.
Okay, so let's go to, I have an oath ceremony for citizenship on Jan 5th. This is Hema. My mother is staying with me. She came to Texas on B1, B2 visitor visa on August 16th. She's good till Feb 16th. She wants to apply for a green card. After I get my citizenship, I can apply for my mom's green card the very next day. Yes, you can. I don't need to wait for my passport. No, you don't. That is correct. I filed Form I-130, 485. I'm not going to tell you the exact forms. That's beyond my, ability to help. That creates legal liability for me. But I-130 package, I-485 package are the two packages that need to be filed together. USCIS instructions are pretty good on this. Read their website, read the instructions on the form, or get a lawyer. You should be okay. Is birth certificate mandatory for I-130? You need to file it. And if you don't have birth certificate, you need to get a certificate of non-availability or a letter of non-availability from the local municipal corporation where she was born, and 2 affidavits from people who were alive when she was born. They don't have to be adults when they were born, when she was born. Okay, you got to submit something with the package. Now, you were told that I-130 are issued within 90 days. That rule is going to go away on January 17th. And she may not have the option to travel that quickly. And by the way, even if she's out of status, it's not a problem. Being the immediate relative of a US citizen, she doesn't have to worry about maintaining status. But tell her not to travel until she gets a green card approval. There are many things that are going to be okay for her, but let's just be safe because we have limited amount of time here. So you could file for her green card even after her status. To file for extension of B1, B2, I-94, does I-130 need to be approved? No. Once you file her 485, she is an authorized period of stay. And in fact, even if she was out of status when you filed the 485 along with the I-130, she becomes authorized to stay. I hope it's a little confusing, but that's the way it works. So once the 485 is filed, she's good, even if she was out of status before. Okay? But don't let her travel if she goes out of status, because then I would want to take a look at the whole case, or you should have a lawyer take a look at the whole case. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question, please. I'm trying to rush through, guys, because there's still a bunch of questions that need to be answered. Okay. TN, Vijay is on TN. He says, second employer has offered me a part-time job in the same TN category. He's applying for my TN by post. What precautions to take while filling up the form? I can't really tell you. I can't really tell you that. I can't tell you about filling forms. But certainly this type of arrangement is possible on a TN. I can't tell you, sorry. Filling forms is not something we can do. If you look at the form, it tells you if somebody other than you has helped you fill the form, they must sign. And I'm not going to sign any paperwork. So we can't really tell you how to fill forms. Okay. B. Sundar, what will happen to H4EAD's validity that was done through employer A if you transfer to employer B? No problem. Just because the H1 holder went from employer A to employer B does not affect the H4 EAD or the H4. Even if you change employers, EAD is still good. Ask if you have any questions. Sorry, star 5 if you have any questions, follow-up questions. Okay. We are good here. Madhu says, oh, let me make sure we got that. Oh, no. Oh, there's another one here. AX 341. I-140 was approved in November 2014 for employer A. And you worked for them till Feb 2016. So, definitely more than 180 days. Last job. Got most recent extension for employer B using the approved I-140. I don't know what the current status of the approval is, whether they withdrew it or not. Well, I have discussed the I-140 rule in great detail several times today. And the answer is, after January 17th, if the I-140 is still surviving and then they revoke it, your extensions are safe. Your H-1B extensions are safe. But if they revoke it before January 17th, they are not safe. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question on this. Okay. Now Madhu. H-1B good till September 2018. I entered USA on 2nd July 2016. Current passport, so applied for renewal of passport. How can I get the I-94 stamping in the new passport? I-94 is not stamped in the new passport. You want an extension of the I-94. Guys, don't be slow about raising your hand. I just got a raised hand. Let me finish this question. I'll come to it. Okay. So the only two ways you can extend your H1 is, or I-94 is, either apply for an extension with USCIS or go outside USA. If your visa stamping is still good, when you come back and show the border people at the airport or by land, if you show them your approval notice, they should be able to give you an I-94 till 2018. But you can't do it any other way that I know of. Either apply to USCIS for an extension, which is like doing a new H1 all over again, or go outside USA. If your visa stamp is still good, come back showing your H1 approval notice. That should get you all the way to 2018. Okay, *5. Madhu, if you are here and you have a follow-up question. I have one hand up already. I'll deal with it. Okay, let's go to, let's see, where are we with this? This one is also California. Yes, California, go ahead, please.
Hi, Rajiv. This is the question regarding the I-140. The last question that you just answered, AKS 341. So you mentioned, I just wanted to make sure my understanding is correct. So if my I-140 is not revoked until January 17 or it is revoked after January 17, then my H1 extensions can be done through any employer. But if it is revoked before January 17, then I lose that H1 extensions through that H1.
That is what I think. There are two things I'm going to double check. Whether the 180 days have to commence after January 17, I don't think so. I didn't see that. But I'm going to double check that. It's on my things to do. Two things I have to check. Another one is on the bridge H1s, how that works exactly. I'm going to find out. I will tweet it. I will post it on LinkedIn. I will post it on our Facebook page and Google+. So I'm pretty sure what I'm saying is correct, and your understanding is also correct. Okay.
So even though my I-140 was approved in 2014 and it has remained approved for more than 100 days.
Well, because the regs start their protection only from January 17th. What happens before that is not relevant.
Okay. All right.
Well, good.
Okay,
Good luck to
fine.
you, sir. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Madhu's case I've dealt with. DKP. I'm on H1B under EB3. Perm is cleared. I-140 cleared in 2012. Completed masters. Cleared perm under EB2 also. I-140 is in process. Job offer from a client. They want me to join. Will I be able to keep the priority date of EB3? Do it after January 17th. Yes, you should do it after January 17th just to make sure that you don't get into any trouble. Okay. Now, if I join client, will I be able to apply for EAD? No. You still have to file a new green card through the client. You have to start everything all over again. Only two things you will carry. One is the right to extend your H1, and the other one is your priority date. But you still have to start your green card all over again, DKP. *5 if you have a follow-up question. *5. Okay. Next question. I'm on a K1 visa, got married, license was under maiden name. So once your green card is approved or is close to being approved, you will not be able to change your name. You can call USCIS, open a service request because your 485 is pending, see if they can accommodate your request. But another way you can do it is, once the green card is approved, you can then take recourse to the local court system. It's a fairly easy process to change your name. Once they change your name, you don't need a lawyer usually for these cases. Once they change your name, you can then go to the USCIS, file the proper forms, get a new green card issued under the married name, then change your social security information and whatever else you need to change. *5 if you have a follow-up question. *5. You can contact USCIS. I don't think they'll accommodate you, but you can ask them. Okay. PKZ wants to know, can my brother, my wife's brother, my brother-in-law travel while his green card is pending on a tourist visa? And the answer is he can travel on, he can apply for it. Sometimes they give it, sometimes they don't. Just make sure you make it clear that a green card is pending. Normally, because these green cards take 13 years to process, consulate may be more inclined to issue B2 visas in appropriate cases, where the person is established, well established in their home country, and government feels that they are now going to violate their visa status. So yeah, it might be. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question on this. Okay, let's go to Aditya Deshpande. Company B started layoff from December 1st. To maintain my status, I filed for H4 and EAD concurrently on December 8th. Now, as of December 14th, I've got an offer from company C. Can I file H1B and H4 at the same time? Yes. What you can do is file H1B premium processing, and when it gets approved, withdraw your H4. Can I have, you can also do that. So your question is, should it be okay if I stay on H1B for a while and then when I receive my AD, let them know? Yes, I think you can do that. I don't see any reason why you can't do that. So you've got your H4 EAD pending, you file H1, you ask for H1 premium processing. If it gets approved with a I-94, okay, then you can be on H1 while the H4 EAD is pending. If the H4 EAD gets approved, you can tell the new employer, put me on EAD, not on H1. Only fly in the ointment is, because the old job is gone and you are in between jobs. So, in other words, when you file the second H1B, you're not in H1 status. Therefore, you are in a change of status mode. And if you have to leave USA to get visa stamping, then your H4 will go away. That's the only problem here. So it may not quite work out the way you want it to, but theoretically what you're saying is possible. Star 5, Aditya, if you have a follow-up question. Okay. We are, oh, I think we are done. 1 second. I think we are done, guys. 31, 32. Yeah, Aditya, this was the last question. Aditya's question was the last question. Okay, I'm still going to spend a couple of minutes with you guys since you waited so patiently. Anybody has any question, press star 5. Anybody has any question, press star 5. One question. Okay, that's the only one, then I will answer. There's a bunch of you on the phone. Okay. That's the only one we'll answer. So,
Hello.
Canada.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Rakesh, and I have one question. I have previously has H1B visa valid until 2011 in passport stamp, but I left USA in 2008 December. But my 485 is pending since 2007. If I want to come back to the US, I need to go to the lottery, or without quota exam I can come back.
First of all, your 485 is gone. You know that, right? You don't have a 485 anymore.
Yes, sir.
But the way this works is, USCIS so far, I don't know what tomorrow brings. So let's say you got approved in 2008. If we count from 2008, you were not approved within the last 6 years. But if we count from 2011, you were approved within the last 6 years.
Yeah.
They count from 2011. So I think you'll be exempt from the quota, sir.
Then one of employees ready to hire me. He can contact you. He can send you all documentation, and you can look it. If company is willing to hire me, he say they don't know which lawyer to go. That's why I asked him to your name. They're going to might be
No
contact you
problem,
this
sir.
week.
You can have them You can have
And
them
they-
email me directly to help@immigration.com.
Okay, sir. And they're going to send me my 485 pending notice with my H1 approved until the I-94 is showing
No
2011.
problem. Sounds good.
Okay, sir. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much,
Good
sir.
luck. Okay.
You're welcome.
We
Bye.
have
Thank
one
you.
more question. This one is from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, go ahead, please.
Hi Rajiv, thank you very much. I'm asking this question for my friend. Actually, he is currently working for employer A and he is going to get an offer for employer B. He is trying to transfer his H1B to the new employer B. So what is your best suggestion? He needs to wait for the employer B to get it approved and then he join and then put a notice to the employer
Yes.
A.
Yes.
Or what is his
Normally
change?
that's what I like to do, because there are so many ways H1 can go sideways. I want to have the approval in hand before I give notice to the old employer. No problem.
In that case, can he go for like premium
Yes, he
processing
should.
with
Yes,
the employer
of course
B?
he should. Why not?
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you
You're
very much,
welcome. Good
Rajiv.
luck, guys. It's always great talking to you, and I'll talk with you again in 2 weeks. Oh, well, we are coming into holidays, so January, I think first week of January is when Monica is scheduling us again. Good to talk with all of you. Take care. Bye-bye. Every other Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host free community conference calls. Everybody is welcome to join. Some people post questions ahead of time. You can take membership in our forums. All of the details are there on our website, immigration.com. You can take membership ahead of time, and it's instantaneous. It happens right away. And post your questions beforehand, or you can just log in. The phone number and all are provided: 202-800-8394, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time every other Thursday. We have free apps for both Apple iOS platform for your iPhones and iPads, as well as for Android. Just look for immigration.com, the period dot, and the application should show up.